Hello, folks. Welcome to Your Glass Heart in My Hands. Okay, let's begin. You're fast asleep. You're drifting through the darkness, a seemingly endless abyss from which there is no escape. The darkness shrouds you from all sides. It lays on your supine body, thick and heavy like a mantle, pressing down upon your lids until it threatens to dislodge the eyes which lay behind them. You are lost in a deep, dreamless sea, a sailor tossed amongst the towering ocean waves. The darkness is more unforgiving, however, than any waves, for it does not undulate. It is there eternally, perpetually, an immovable, unshifting constant. The darkness is in your ears. It stops up your nose. It would fill your mouth too if you dared to open it. It would choke you like so much dirt poured into the gaping hole of an open grave. The darkness drowns you, it buries you, it consumes you. Okay, so far this has been real edgy. Okay. There is nothing but the darkness, leagues and fathoms and feet of it. But you were a person once, before you found yourself in this sorry state. You had a name once, perhaps you had several names and thoughts of your own feelings too. You had friends, a family perhaps, you had a life. You might have had many lives. You are one, yet you are many, fragmented. Your past dances behind your eyelids like shards of glass, sharp to the touch, and yet, will you reach out to touch these broken bits and pieces of your past? Do you dare? Okay, this one looks the most beautiful. So I'm going with her. You continue to drift in the darkness. It submerges you like tar, like oil. There's something oddly reassuring about the darkness, something soothing. And it's time to wake up, but you cannot drift forever. There are people who are worrying about you, people who care for you. Surely they must care, for you can hear a voice calling to you through the veil of darkness, a voice which stirs memories deep within you. You recognize that voice. You are sure you know this speaker, though you can't put a name or a face to them, not just yet at least. Beth, it is time to wake up. And this realization is like a flickering candle, one which soon turns into a burning beacon. This light, no, this fire fills you, scouring you from your tip to your toe. You are assailed by memories, phantom sounds and smells. You recall the cracking of wood, the flickering of flames. Motes of fire dance beneath your closed eyelids, threatening to burn you from the inside out. You shiver, though you do not understand why. Fire ought to be hot, and yet... Beth, I will not ask you again. Wake up, you silly girl. You cannot keep sleeping, not now. You fear. If you continue to drift, these burning flames will finally consume you. Your lungs will fill with thick, acrid smoke, and then you will choke to death, while all else burns around you. So far, what the hell is happening? I still have zero idea. You do not want to endure that again. Alright, where are we? So you force yourself to open your eyes even though it hurts. The back of your head is throbbing and there is an unpleasant taste on your tongue, an unpleasant stench in your nostrils. The smell is sharp and rank, acidic and acrid. It is the stench of neglect, disuse, dereliction, and dust. And beneath it all, you swear you can catch a lingering smell of smoke. You lie there, dazed and disoriented. Your eyes might be open, but you still have no idea where you are. Scarcely any idea who you are. Pain continues to throb in the back of your skull, slow and dull and regular. You feel sick. You wish you had never woken up, but you had no other choice. You know you cannot sleep forever. You blink, dispersing white spots which swims in front of your vision, and look around groggily. You still have no idea where you are, and that awful stench is making you feel sick. And who is this? Oh, I see you have finally come to. I was beginning to worry you wouldn't wake up this time. You put me through quite a lot of stress, you awful girl. You really will be the death of me one day. Ugh. Judging from by her clothing, I think she's a nurse. And she's real hot, man. But you soon realize that you are not alone. There is a woman standing by your bedside, a tall, gaunt woman who looks alarmingly skeletal. The woman is skinny to the point of emaciation with pale flesh which sits a bit too close to her bones. Can't really tell from her clothing. Okay. Her eyes are an unsettling crimson and her under eyes are dark. The bags beneath her eyes are so black her irises look as though they are set into two blank staring holes. This offers the peculiar woman an uncanny quality, as if she is observing you from a great distance. Her hair is dark and it straggles loosely around her shoulders which are gaunt, sharp and bony just like the rest of her. She wears the attire of a nurse, white apron, blue gown, white stockings and black boots, and her mouth is concealed by a surgical mask. You cannot see her mouth, but you can gauge her expression from those awful eyes of hers alone. Awful eyes? No, man, them eyes look beautiful. She is looking at you with a detached sort of curiosity, as a scientist might observe a specimen, one which had been pinned down on a board ready to be dissected. Oh, not sure if that's a good thing or no. Hopefully, never mind. You know what? That's a bad thing. She's gonna cut us. Her intrigue in you is of a surgical kind. Her red irises so unnerving you shudder. You cannot say you trust this woman. So far she's done nothing, so I trust her? You don't, I do, but at least your dreams of fire have faded into the background. You cannot think of fire when you look at this woman. She is much too cold for it. An ice sculpture brought to life. You look at the nurse uneasily. You do not trust her, but you still ask her where you are. What is going on? You have nobody else after all to turn to for answers. She is the only other person here you can talk to. Oh? The nurse raises an eyebrow. Do you not know where you are? No. Where the hell am I? Mutely, perhaps meekly, you shake your head. The nurse looks at you coldly. You think that everything she does must be cold. Then says, and do you know who you are? This question is even more pointed than the last. It lacerates you just like broken glass and you tremble. This ought to be easy enough to answer. How can you not know who you are? And yet, you should know this. The answer is on the tip of your tongue. But when you try to grope for it, you are met with nothing save, well, nothingness. There is a hole in your head where your memories ought to be. You can feel the empty, aching lack inside your skull, throbbing. Your sense of self has slowly leaked away while you were lying in your hospital bed in this dark and dingy room. You ought to know who you are, but you do not. Your identity, your own identity, is a mystery to you. So, did we just wake up from a coma, or do we have a severe case of amnesia? Either that, it's either those two, man. Otherwise, why would we wake up with zero knowledge? You do not know your age, nor your occupation, nor even your name. You could be a queen for all you know, with the sort with the power to order executions, and you would have no idea. You have never felt more lost before. Or at least you think that you have never felt more lost before. How can you be so sure of that, however, when you cannot remember anything past the present? All you know is this hospital bed. The only face you can recall with any clarity is that of your nurse as she stands beside you, and even then you can only see half her face. The surgical mask obscures her mouth. You cannot remember the faces of your parents if you even have any. You cannot recall any brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, nephews and nieces, family, friends. Okay. Chill out. Take a chill pill. Chill out, bro. Just talk to the nurse. You cannot recall a single thing. The hell does it matter? Mutely, you bite the inside of your cheek. They bite a little too hard and your teeth shear through the soft, inviting flesh within. Blood begins to bubble from the wound, sharp and coppery, and you wince. The nurse, meanwhile, clicks her tongue. I'll take that as a no then. That is unfortunate. Here you wince as if you have failed some sort of a test. Have you let her down? But that's alright. That is what I'm here for. You cock your head at your nurse curiously. What does she mean by that? I know who you are. The nurse continues, her voice a dull, monotonous. Even if you don't, that is my job. Now listen, you are a young lady of some renown. A young lady? You cannot recall being a young lady, but by the same token, you cannot remember being a scullery maid or a farmer's assistant or a spinner either. If you have to be anything, you suppose you could do much worse than being a lady. It is only one step down from being a princess, which is one step down from being a queen. If you have to assume any identity, you could do worse than being a lady. But you could also do far better. Ladies have less power, after all, than the lords who father them. The lords they wed. Yes, you think as you sit there, you would far rather be a lord. You do not know much of yourself, but you cannot imagine you have ever wanted to be a lady. You were out riding, the nurse says, her voice dispassionate, on your horse when you had something of an accident. An accident? Indeed, you slipped and you fell and you broke your leg. I did my best to set your bones, but it will take some time for you to recover. Thanks. Until then, I must advise that you remain here, undisturbed and unmoved. Naturally, I will check in on you at regular intervals, and I will see that all of your needs are being met. That is what I'm here for. Thank you. Ah, you see, you had wondered why your right leg felt so heavy and why it looked so bulky beneath your sheets. You cannot see the current state of your leg, not with the sheets on atop it, but you imagine you are wearing a cast. You cannot remember what a cast is, at least, even if you cannot remember your own name, your old home, your friends and family. How curious. You must have banged your head rather hard when you fell off your horse. That would be the only logical explanation behind your disorientation, the dull ache inside your skull. You swallow, tasting decay on the air, tasting dust, and you wince. Your fingers curl about your sheets, which are threadbare, and you glance about. You take in your room, dark and drab and decidedly dingy, with peeling walls and a wooden floor, and a singular window, small and mean like a prison cell, and you frown. Your nurse says that you are a young lady, but if that is true, why are your surroundings so derelict, madam? Yes, that's a good way of terming it, where you ask your nurse, is this place? This, the nurse replies coolly, is a private sanatorium. Young girls are sent here when they sicken, and we, which is to say us nurse, do our best to help you recover. You see, that does make sense, but you wish to know why the sanatorium is so run down. You were wondering that, yes, if you wouldn't mind. Not at all, the nurse answers in a tired sort of voice which suggests that she does mind, quite a lot in fact. This sanatorium is something of an experiment. An experiment? Our benefactress is an eccentric woman with rather unique, shall we say, beliefs. And by she, I'm referring to one Dr. Godwin. Thinks that these newfangled, here the nurse makes a quotation mark with one hand, the hand which isn't holding her cigarette. Hospitals with their sleek white floors and walls are bad for patients. Her argument is if the sick are kept in pristine conditions, what motivation will they have to recover? They will grow complacent and they will be content to waste away within a hospital bed. It is the belief of Dr. Godwin that cleanliness is not in fact close to godliness. Instead, it induces slovenliness. That is two words I do not understand. You are here to recover, nothing more, and your parents wish for you to recover as soon as possible, so that you might return home. That is why they sent you here. Our healing methods at this sanatorium may seem unorthodox, but they have been proven to work with many patients in the past. We have helped scores of young ladies recover from various ailments, from the mental to the physical. Our patients are sequestered within their own rooms, and they are given little in the way of stimulation. We seek to bore you so extensively that you will have nothing to divert your attention to save recovery. That is not for you to do here. No books nor any games beyond resting. Oh, thanks. So I'm just sitting here. Oh, that's it. Okay. And there are no unnecessary furnishings which might distract you. These rooms are kept strict and Spartan for your own benefit, and if they are a little rundown, well, that only aids with our goal of recovery. I cannot imagine many girls, especially not young ladies, would wish to stay in a pile like this for very long. Yeah, but you also have to keep in mind about hygiene and cleanliness. They matter too, you know. What if bacteria got into my wound? Then I just die. The nurse glances about her, her nose wrinkling. You watch as her brow furrows, and she says, "So you must do your best to recover. Get a lot of sleep, and who knows, in time you may be able to escape from this place." So can you? And what better way to fall into sleep than a bedtime story? Can you tell me a bedtime story then, miss? Otherwise, I'll be sitting here with nothing. Come on. The cigarette pinched in the nurse's left hand between her two long, alarmingly skinny fingers burns down slowly as she speaks. You watch the end of her cigarette throughout her little speech, your irises affixed to it. You aren't sure why, but you find yourself drawn to it. And that's because we're bored. Imagine being so bored that looking at a cigarette burning is fun. The end of the cigarette is orange red and it smells of ash. A steady plume of grey smoke escapes from it, a plume of smoke which carries with it the unpleasant fug of nicotine. The smell permeates your small room, which looks more like a cell, far more effectively than the weak and frowsy sunlight through your begrimed window. The smell seems to infiltrate everything. It settles upon your bedside table, upon your sheets, upon your shoulders. It fills your nostrils, invades your parted lips, and it seems to coat the inside of your own lungs, so you cough. The nurse watches you splutter archly, don't know how you pronounce that, unamusedly, and says, "Stop that silliness. You have an issue with your legs, not your lungs. Get your act together." You are aware that you have a cigar in your hand, right? The nurse sounds wholly unsympathetic to your plight, so much so tears begin to beat in your eyes. Or perhaps that is the result of the cigarette smoke. You are not accustomed to the smell of cigarette smoke. You have the faintest, vaguest collection of your father smoking his way through expensive cigars, but it has always made you splutter. You cannot stand the stench of it. It clings to everything it touches, wallpaper and wainscoting and your windpipe alike, and it makes you feel sick. You shrink in on yourself, your arms winding around your middle. At least you did not break either of those. You wish the nurse would not smoke so. Surely that is contrary to your recovery. You tell the nurse as much, but she simply shrugs in response. Why should it matter? This place isn't meant to be hospitable. I already told you as much. But is this place not, you ask her tremulously, a hospital? No, it isn't. It is a sanatorium. Did you not listen to a word I was saying? You did, of course, but you rather thought that hospitals and sanatoriums were one and the same. Well, that is your mistake, the nurse says waspishly, and your own ignorance at play. They are not the same. No? No, we do things differently in the sanatorium, but it is all for your own good. You would do better not to question me, else it will impede your recovery. You do want to get better, don't you? Of course you do, but then do not ask any more questions. Do not make any suggestions. It is not your place. As a patient, you have no voice. There is nothing you can say which can sway me. Your only job is to recover. Until your leg has healed, you cannot integrate into society. And if you cannot integrate with society, that means you are no longer human. Not a human? No, indeed. In your current state, lying in that bed, you are like a rat, or even less than a rat. At least they can scamper. If you were to try to stand up, however, you would soon collapse. Wow, thanks, nurse. Oh, you're very kind. You're very kind, sir. If that's the case, if I'm less than a rat, she plans to kill me. Does that mean she plans to kill me? 'Cause I'm less than a rat? Do you want to try that? You note an uncomfortable degree of intrigue in your nurse's eyes and you shudder. You cannot say that you have much of a desire to try that, no. That is what I thought, your nurse says triumphantly. Now, I believe I have answered enough of your questions. It is high time I left. I do have other patients to tend to, you know. Well, you're the one standing there, yapping your mouth. How could you? Go, shoo, go away, go talk to some other people. You are rude. You are rude, unkind, and you're a bit. What do you say? Never mind. If your nurse treats her other patients the same way that she has been treating you, you feel rather sorry for them. But you know better than to express this sentiment. You might be somewhat impetuous. You get the feeling you have always been something of a chatterbox, unusually so for a young lady, but you are not stupid. You know when it is best to keep your mouth shut, and keeping your mouth closed seems like the most sensible course of action in your nurse's company. If she insists on smoking all the time, then you would prefer not to breathe in these acrid fumes. How the hell are we supposed not to breathe in the cigarette smoke if she's just standing there with it burning right in front of our face? Impossible. She says that her smoking is in the interest of your recovery, but you are tempted to call her bluff on that one. You rather think that your nurse is doing whatever she wants, all in the service of making you squirm. I will be going now, your nurse says after a small pause. She waits, perhaps hoping you will ask her for her to tarry a minute, to stay by her side, to think twice about abandoning you. Please. But you do not say any of these things. You do not want to give her the satisfaction, and anyway, you think you would prefer if she did leave. Yeah, man. That cigar is making us uncomfortable. She can go make the other patients uncomfortable. You cannot say that this meeting has been particularly pleasant. I will see you later, your nurse says stiffly once she realizes no pleas for clemency are forthcoming. I will be back with your dinner. You need to eat more. You're such a wisp of a thing, it will fortify you. Haha, you calling me weak? Have you seen your own body? You have no muscle. From the description, it says that you are skeletal, that you have nothing, that you are emaciated, starved, and you look like somebody from. And you look like a, what do you say, somebody from 1940s Germany. Yeah, the one that just came back from Auschwitz. Until then, bye-bye. Your nurse turns. You think that she will depart, taking her cigarette with her and its noxious fumes. But once more she confounds you. She lets her cigarette, now burned down to a stump, fall from her long, elegant fingers. Whoa, really? What a waste of good cigar. What a bee. What a bee. Then she crushes it beneath her heel, slowly and methodically, as one might stamp a spider to death. When she draws her foot away, the cigarette is a sad, crumpled husk of its former self, its back bent, ash scattered across the warped and wooden floorboards. At least it has stopped smoking, but the smell remains. Your nurse looks at the disfigured remnants of her cigarette archly, her expression unfeeling. So do you. There is a pause, and then your nurse finally walks away. The soles of her boots strike against the aged floor, which creaks pitifully in response. She closes the door to your room with no small amount of force. So it slams, the foundations of the old creaking sanatorium seeming to groan from it. In your nurse's absence, you do not know what to do, not immediately at least. You sit in your bed for a few moments, almost marveling at how thin and lumpy the mattress is. You glance at your legs, obscured by thin and faintly dirty sheets. You cannot see your legs, but you can see the sheets are distended on your right side, a shallow hillock which suggests your leg has been constrained in some sort of cast. You are momentarily tempted to peel the sheets back and examine your leg, so as to verify everything your nurse told you, but your fingers freeze mid-air, splayed like the legs of a spider. Do you really want to see what sort of sorry state your lower body is in? You must have injured your leg quite severely if your parents saw it fit to send you away to this strange sanatorium. You are unsure whether you want to confront the truth right now, and in any event, your leg scarcely hurts at all. It is your head instead, which is pounding, and the lingering scent of nicotine hardly helps. Why, you wonder, did your nurse have to stub her cigarette out on the floor? That can't be hygienic. You are certain she must have violated some sort of rule. Perhaps you can tell a doctor about it later, provided there are any doctors present to see you. I don't think there are any. I think we're about to be experimented upon. Or she's keeping us as a slave. It's either those two. I don't think there's any doctors around. So far, you have only seen your nurse, but you have only been at the sanatorium for one day. There must be other members of staff you can talk to, other nurses, and other doctors. Maybe your nurse's eccentric overseer, this Dr. Godwin, will even pay a visit to ensure that things are ticking over and the patients are all being well treated, or poorly treated, as the case may be, given the mission statement of this place seems to put discomfort on a pedestal. Still, you cannot imagine even a strange establishment like this would turn a blind eye to smoking in a patient's room. You will tell the doctor about this tomorrow, and perhaps a new nurse will be assigned to take care of you. Yes, you think, with a small sigh, that is what you will do. You will see to it tomorrow. It is still early. The sky outside your filthy bedroom window is a weak wan blue, but you feel awfully tired. You do not think much of your nurse. In fact, you rather dislike her, but something she said did stay with you. She told you to rest. She said that you wouldn't recover without it, and she might have had a point. You must lie back and allow your body a chance to recover. It is with this thought that you lie down. The covers cool against your skin, your hair splayed against your yellow tarnished pillow. Your eyes fall shut, the scent of nicotine hanging in the air like incense. But before sleep claims you, a sudden thought occurs to you. Your nurse might have been holding a cigarette, but she never did take a drag from it. She kept her surgical mask on the whole time and never tried to remove it. Why is that? You wonder if there is some sort of significance to this peculiar detail, but you haven't the wherewithal to wonder for too much longer. Sleep slowly steals upon you, even more potent than the smell of cigarette smoke, and with a soft sigh you succumb. You awake early the following morning to the twittering of so many starlings on the boughs of the trees beyond your bedroom window. You are unsure of for how long you slept. You cannot see any clocks in your room, but you feel more well rested than you did the day prior, decidedly more alert. The ache in your head has subsided somewhat, and you feel sharper for it. The unpleasant smell of rot still remains, of course, coupled with the lingering fug of your nurse's cigarette smoke, but you can bear with it well enough. Lingering fug. that word is funny. Fug. Fug. You might be a lady, but though you do not feel much like one. But you are not a little girl. You are stronger than what people give you credit for, and you have always been strong-willed, obstinate even. Why, your parents were always telling you not to ride Apollo. That is the name of your beloved horse. As often as you did, through the grounds, but you did not listen. Nobody has ever been able to tell you what to do. You have always been a law unto yourself. Your hair loose and streaming around your shoulders. Your shoes forever muddy from your forays into the forest. Your mother would tut when you tramped into the house, traipsing dirt behind you, and she would ask what in the world you had been doing, gallivanting off like Lady Godiva. Naturally, you would smile at your mother and tell her not to be silly, that you were nothing like Lady Godiva. You at least did not go riding your beloved horse stark naked. Yes, you can remember all this now, these details about your past life, once forgotten, taking form in your head like a jigsaw puzzle. The holes in your head have been filled, the nooks and crannies in your minds stuffed full of memories. But even then, you still cannot remember your name. Now this is aggravating. What a bother. You can remember your mother, a silly, easily startled woman who reminded you of an ostrich, and your father, a red, rotund figure, forever with a cigar in one hand, but you cannot remember you. Your memories are a blur. but you are sure you will recall who you are in due time. You need only wait for it. That is what your nurse told you last night at least, but you have never been very good at waiting for things. You have always been far too impetuous. You used to drive your poor governess to distraction when you still had one. You made her cry on more than one occasion, and you are certain you put pins inside her shoes several times. My goodness, you really were naughty. Is it any wonder that your parents sent you to a sanatorium like this to recuperate? Doubtless, you were hoping that it would knock some humility in you. Perhaps this was meant to be a punishment. Then, is that why your nurse insisted on smoking around you? You look at the memento your nurse left behind during her last visit. The cigarette bent back on the ground and your nose wrinkles. You cannot stand smoking. You think it is a dirty habit. Did your father give your nurse permission to do that? You will have to speak to a doctor about it. Such conduct is unacceptable. You are sure that you will see a doctor in due course. Hey, look who's back! So you're awake already, are you? Good, that saves me the trouble of needing to stir you. Oh, stir me, what do you mean by that? But you are grossly disappointed by the woman who wishes you a good morning. Good morning, nurse. Did you bring my dinner? It is not the self-important pompous doctor, and neither is it the eccentric benefactress of this institution, the woman called Dr. Godwin. Dr. Godwin is a woman? What? I thought it's a man. It is the same nurse who tended to you yesterday, though tended does not seem like quite the right word. Tended implies a degree of care that your nurse did not offer you. There was absolutely nothing tender about her. She was cold instead and hard, and it seems like a night's rest has done little to soften the sharp, jagged edges of your caretaker. If anything, the nurse seems even colder than she did yesterday. An immovable pillar of salt whose skin looks alarmingly sallow. I think there's a misspelling there. I think it means shallow. In the early morning light. You took note of this the day prior, but your nurse's ghoulish appearance is even more pronounced than before. You cannot help but think as you observe your nurse that she is rather like the room in which you are convalescing. Your room is in an awful state. The floorboards warped, the wallpaper peeling, and your nurse matches the general malaise to a T. She looks so very derelict herself. You can easily imagine she was born within this room and that she will die within this room. It did mention that she is skeletal, skinny, and emaciated. I just realized she could be saving us for dinner. She could be trying to cook us. She's nursing us back to health so we can be healthy enough to cook. Oh, that could be the reason. She's starving, so she needs to eat, and we are on the menu. Oh, I see through your plan now, nurse. Once I recover, I'm gonna break the window and jump out. Haha. Your nurse is unhealthily, eerily pale, just like a corpse. Her skin is paper white, which makes the bags under her eyes stand out all the more than they otherwise would, deep and dark like twin bruises. She looks so very disheveled, you almost feel sorry for her. Or at least you would if her unnerving appearance did not send a shiver down your spine. You shrink away from the nurse when she enters your room, a rejection which she of course notices. She does not seem especially perturbed by your body language. However, she simply scoffs and says, "So much for being a lady, that's not very polite." Ha ha. Have you seen a mirror yet? Crisply, you tell the nurse that you have never cared overly much about manners, and you never wanted to be a lady either. You have always found your title uncomfortably restraining. Well, I didn't much wish to be born into abject poverty, the nurse says archly, yet that was still my lot in life, and I had to make the most of it. We can't always have what we want. Of course, you are well aware of that. You're not a child. You do not wish to be languishing in this sanatorium with a broken leg, yet here you are. Yes, indeed, here you are, though I wish you would not use such melodramatic language. You are hardly languishing. I'm taking good care of you, though heaven knows I don't get paid enough for it. Why I don't get paid at all? I'm doing this solely out of goodness of my own heart, if you can believe that. No, I don't believe that. If you hate this job so much, then hand in your resignation letter and piss off. Why? Why are you making me miserable? You're such a bee. You're such a bee. She's right to be skeptical. You cannot believe it. Your nurse is so dried out and desiccated, you find it hard to imagine a creature like her has a heart at all. A creature like me, eh? Your nurse echoes. There is a pause and then, oh well, suit yourself. I can tell that you're in a bad mood this morning. That's funny coming from her. But I will not wash my hands of you. It is still my job to help you, whether you want it or not. Now let's see if we can get you out of bed, since you claim you have been left to languish. That might bring some color back into your cheeks. Your nurse lets her cigarette drop to the ground as she speaks. Though she only just lit it, the cigarette is not yet burned down, but she stubs it out regardless, crushing it beneath the sole of her boot. You watch as she grinds the last sparks of life out of her cigarette, and as she does, you frown. Isn't that a waste? I suppose so, your nurse says with a careless shrug. Still, the world is full of it. We waste a lot of things, time, money, and even our own lives. The fate of a single cigarette is hardly worth worrying about. Yes, you know that, and it is not as though you were worrying. You simply thought, given her claims that she had been born into abject poverty, she would care a little more about burning money. Oh, what is this? Your nurse asks, her voice wryly amused. Don't tell me that you're worrying about me. No, you reply stiffly. You won't tell her that. Why would you, when it would be a lie? You are simply making an observation. Ah, I see how it is, your nurse says coldly. Well, let me make an observation in turn. You are a selfish, ungrateful little bee, and that is fine. But that is fine. What the hell, man? What did I do? What did I do, man? Why you being a bee? No wonder you're single and working in this shithole. Ha ha! I am accustomed to dealing with difficult patients. It's all part of the job. Now come here. Your nurse approaches, then hooks an arm around your shoulder. You shudder at her sudden unexpected closeness and try to pull away, but you are unable to get very far. Your nurse holds on to you, clinging to you as intimately as your own shadow, as close and as cloying as a nightmare. She looks at you coolly, her heat tone. I think you mean to say her tone reprimanding as she says, "Stop squirming, you stupid girl. I'm trying to help you. You do not want to get back onto your feet, don't you? You do want to get back on your feet, don't you?" Well, of course you do, but you resent being called a stupid girl. And I couldn't give a damn. If you act stupid, I'll call you stupid. It is what you deserve. No, you want to tell your nurse the stupid part isn't really what makes you uncomfortable, though you suppose it is mildly irritating. It is being called a girl which really shaves at you. You cannot explain why, but the word does not sit right with you. It makes you feel smaller than you are, and insignificant, though you feel plenty small and insignificant as it is, with your nurse trying to help you stand. After some finagling, she is finally able to manage it, but you are unsure whether this operation has been wholly successful. Though your left leg fares well enough, a sudden spike of pain soon pierces your right. Your toes curl and you hiss from the sharp, unexpected agony of it. Your teeth clack together, your whole body trembling, while sweat begins to bead upon your brow. For all you complain of languishing in bed, you would far rather languish than endure the agony of trying to stand on a leg which has been badly broken. It hurts a lot, so much so that the word hurt seems almost inappropriate. The word is not big enough, there are not enough syllables, it cannot hope to communicate even a tenth of your current suffering. But your nurse does not let you slump back on the bed. Instead, she holds you steady, whispering words of affirmation in your ear, her voice dry and rustling just like autumn leaves. Good, you really are making wonderful progress. Your leg was in such an awful state when you first came here. I had initially expected that it would take far longer for you to be able to support yourself. One does not like to dwell too much on the macabre. That is funny, given your nurse is, well, a nurse. But your leg was positively mangled when you arrived. Mangled? Yes, indeed, you broke it so badly at such an angle that your bone was perforating your flesh. I thought that you would need to stay in bed for at least 2 weeks in order to give your leg a chance to heal. That's interesting. Perhaps it is for the best that you didn't let your morbid curiosity get the better of you yesterday then, and you didn't try to examine your leg as it lay swaddled beneath your sheets. Though it seems unlikely that you would have been able to see the white bone perforating your skin, it is in a cast after all. That does raise a question, however. If your nurse thought it would take 2 weeks for your injured leg to heal, why did she suggest that you try to stand upon it today? That almost seems to run contrary to your recovery, unless she was hoping to make things even worse. Of course I wasn't. I just wanted to see whether you could bear your weight upon it. You have been in the sanatorium for several days now. Several days? That's strange. You recall waking only yesterday, unless you have been here far longer than that. Well done, your nurse remarks dryly. And yes, you are correct in your assumption. You haven't been here for much longer than you think, but you are unconscious from the pain, that, and the medication I've been administering you. You only woke up yesterday. That makes sense, you suppose, but if you have been here for much longer than you think, that raises yet another question. How long have you been here? Long enough for you to be able to stand, obviously, though I doubt you would be able to stand unaided. You will probably need to lean on me for the time being. I'm sure that must frustrate you, given how stubborn you are. She knows you well, perhaps too well. When did she have an opportunity to glean so much information from you? But try not to pay too much heed. As your nurse, it is my job to support you. You may lean on me as much as you like. Though that being said, my shoulder is beginning to feel somewhat numb. Perhaps I ought to set you back down, or else I might end up in a hospital bed next. Your nurse's voice is cool, but you sense something pointed in her tone. Is she teasing you? You bristle against the nurse's insinuations. How could her shoulder be going numb already? You don't weigh that much, but you do think begrudgingly that she may have a point. Your broken leg is throbbing uncomfortably. You can stand, but not without spikes of pain going through the right side of your body, shooting up from your soul like lightning. You wonder whether this is how the poor, unfortunate mermaid felt in the fairy tale. Was she not condemned to a cruel fate of feeling every single footstep on land like a knife driven into her unprotected soul? You feel somewhat similar, so much so it is almost enough to make you wonder whether you have always been a human yourself. You feel so clumsy on your feet, even with the nurse there to steady you. It does not seem like too far-fetched to imagine you might have once have been a mermaid. You cannot remember whether you can swim or not, but you do have memories of floating in a large lake in your parents' garden, much to your mother's chagrin, of course. Perhaps you can swim then. You might get along better in the water than you do on dry land. Your every footstep agony, sweat beading like bullets on your eyebrow. You try to breathe and you almost regret it. You can still smell the fog of cigarette smoke, faint but undoubtedly present. The smoke unfurls inside your nostrils. It curdles within your stomach, just like spoiled milk, and you start to sputter. Your eyes squeeze shut, tears beating in the corner of your eyes unbidden as coughs and sputters wrench their way out of you. Your nurse listens to you, one eyebrow raised, and says, "Oh dear," though she doesn't sound all that unsympathetic. She clicks her tongue, then says, "Let's sit you down. I think you've had quite enough excitement for one day." Part of you wants to argue with your nurse, but you don't have the energy for that. You know, though you didn't wish you didn't, that she's right. Why bother being difficult? You let your nurse lie you back on your bed, which is narrow as a coffin, the sheets thin and uncomfortably stained. Your nurse tucks you in and says, "That was plenty of progress for one day. We can resume tomorrow. You seem quite hard-headed, and girls like you are always the first to get better. I have faith in you. Or perhaps I should say I have faith in that nasty, self-preserving personality of yours." Nasty and self-serving? That doesn't sound like the sort of thing a nurse should say. It isn't very professional. You tell your nurse as much. You might feel wary, but you have just enough wherewithal to try and argue against her diagnosis. and she smiles in response. How do we know that she's smiling? She's wearing a mask. Or at least you think she does. Ah, exactly. It is hard to tell, given that she's still wearing that surgical mask. Above that obstructive strip of fabric, however, you think you see your nurse's red eyes soften, albeit slightly. It was meant to be a compliment, I assure you. Was it now? It's a strange sort of compliment. Why, of course, it takes one to know one, after all. And I have always preferred nasty, self-serving girls over ones who simper. They are much more amusing to tease and torment. Oh good, because that doesn't sound at all sinister. You roll your eyes, though you feel so tired it is a wonder you have the energy for such a gesture of defiance. And your nurse titters. You still cannot see her face, but you are sure of what expression she is making now beneath her mask. She must be smiling. If I am not at least a little bit sinister, then I'm not doing my job properly. I am a nurse, you know. And are all nurses, you ask her, meant to be sinister? To an extent, I'm sure. Anybody who has a capacity to stick a syringe in you ought to be a little bit unnerving, don't you think? Well, not even you can argue with that. She does have a point. I know I do. I wouldn't have said so otherwise, and I have several other pointed objects I can stick inside you too, at my own discretion. If you think my words are sharp, you have not seen anything yet. Oh, she's gonna stick inside of us. Do it, baby. Dare you. Haha, you won't. You won't. You don't have the balls. Literally. She literally does not have balls to do it. Tiredly, you tell your nurse that you do not disbelieve her, but you have no real desire to be stuck through with anything sharp. You just want to go to sleep. Well, that is your prerogative. I will see you later, my little patient. Do your best to get better, is what I should say. Your nurse says, her eyes half-lidded. However, if you were to remain here a little longer. Yes, what if you were to remain? Never mind, your nurse replies after an ominous pause. Good night. You do not bother to tell your nurse that it is not nighttime, that it is still light outdoors. There is no point to it. Time seems to lose all meaning in the sanatorium. It passes by too slowly at times, and too quickly at others, in fits and starts, which leaves you feeling nauseous. Or perhaps that is simply the ever-present fog of a cigarette smoke. You do not think that it is nighttime, at least, but you cannot say for sure. The window of your room is so covered in grime it is hard to tell where the sun sits in the sky, or whether the sun sits in the sky at all. Your room is cast in a near constant shade of grey no matter the hour. A gloomy pall which makes you feel rather like you are an ever-present attendant at a funeral. The only question is, whose funeral is this? Yours? Your nurse leaves with a customary creak of the floorboards, a thud of the door. You spy her lighting up another cigarette before she leaves, and the smoke trails a bit along behind her like a shroud. She departs with red and orange sparks, just like a witch, the unpleasant smell of nicotine lingering in the air. Then there is nothing. Time passes in mysterious ways, and it seems to dilate, then contract in the weeks, if indeed it has been weeks, which follow. Your time is unfixed, as is your place in the world. You awake sometimes at your nurse's behest and sometimes on your own. She checks up on you and she eases you from your bed, supports you, your living walking stick, as you shamble gracelessly around your room. Your room is very small, it might even be smaller than a prison cell, and you feel like you have been like a caged beast as you lumber around, in a body which refuses to listen to you. There is something maddening about how incredibly clumsy you have become, especially when you once were able to scale the trees in your parents' garden like a monkey. In the past, you never would have had an issue walking a circuit around a cell like this. Now, however, every few shuffling footsteps you make are liable to make you feel breathless. Sweat begins to prickle on your brow and your skin turns red from the effort of it all, an unpleasant meaty sort of redness which fades into a porridge-like pus once the nurse lets you lie down again. For weeks, but has it been weeks, you struggle on like this, waging war against your own body. You do not leave your room, and neither, curiously enough, do you think of leaving. You are remembering more about your past every single day, bits and pieces floating across your consciousness like driftwood. You remember your servants and how you used to goad them into playing games with you, especially the stable boy who could not resist a chance to prove himself your superior when it comes to scaling trees. You remember your former governess and how you would drive her into fits by pretending supreme ignorance, cocking her head and saying, what, when she asked you to recite your French verbs. You even remember Justine, not there is much to recollect about her, a girl about your age of a similar social standing. You visited her only a handful of times, but she still made an impression, if only because of how startlingly insipid she was. You remember vowing with a sort of fervency that you would never become a lady like that, one so reliant upon your maids you could hardly dress yourself. You are recalling a lot, but despite all your progress, you still cannot recall your own name. It is maddening, this ignorance about who you are which dogs you still, yet you do not allow yourself to succumb to despair. You will get better, you have to. Then again you will return home walking on both your legs, and you will confront your parents. You will snap at them even if it is unladylike, and you will ask them what they were thinking. Why did they send you to this sanatorium of all places? Surely they could have afforded something better. It is an affront, an insult, and your nurse will not stop lighting cigarettes in your presence, though she never smokes them. What in the world is wrong with her? You wonder this from time to time, more even than you wonder who you are, but you are unsure whether you want to know the answer. You have the uncomfortable feeling that there is something strange about your nurse, some great secret she is hiding from you, beneath her red eyes and her surgical mask, but you do not probe. You do not have the energy to ponder another's secrets, not when your own name remains a mystery to you. Days pass you by regardless, as they always do, and though you are frustrated at your slow progress, at least you are making progress. That is something to be celebrated at least. Hello? Your nurse seems to agree with this assessment. For one grey and gloomy morn, but all morns are grey and gloomy here, she says, I think you are well and truly on the mend. Your leg has not been acting up, has it? In truth, your leg has been paining you, mostly at night when you are trying to sleep, but you are now so desperate to recover that you hurry to nod your head. That is what I thought. It seems that your condition has stabilized somewhat. After our strength training, perhaps I will see fit to give you a reward. What sort of reward? I thought that we might go for a turn in the garden. How does that sound? Yeah, no thanks, man. Just send me home. I don't want to see you anymore. You stare at your nurse, your eyes wide and eager. Will she finally let you escape your dark, dreary bedroom? Yeah, until we go to the garden and realize it's just as ugly as the room. You feel as though you have been consigned indoors for far too long, like a sunflower shut up in the dark. You have begun to languish, to wither away into nothing at all. The promise of going outdoors, of feeling the sunlight on your skin, is a tantalizing one. But what if your nurse is simply toying with you? You are unsure if you can trust her, but... Yes, the garden. Do you want to step outdoors? Your nurse says. Of course, it will take more than a single step, but I will be with you. You will have to walk further than you have if you want to go outdoors. But it should be good training. It will aid your recovery quicker if you can spend more time on your feet. Though of course, if you think it will be too much strain, you can always refuse. Your nurse raises a brow as she speaks. You cannot see her lips. The lower half of her face is as always obscured. But you are certain she is smiling. No, smirking at you. You know your nurse is mocking you, and it is this which prompts you into action. You force yourself up and out of your bed, though you almost stumble in the process. You tell her, of course, you will be going into the garden. You are sick and tired of being shut up indoors. Do you not deserve at least a taste of freedom? How feisty, your nurse says, one eyebrow still raised. What you deserve has yet to be seen, but if you ask me, only good girls who work hard are worthy of rewards, such as going into the garden. Yes, you understand. Now, are you coming? Of course you are. That was never in question. Yes, nurse. Of course, we are coming. Very well then, come along and do take care when you walk through the hallway. The floor is rotten and there are a few holes. I will not want you to fall through the foundations of the building. Holes? Surely that can't be safe. Did I ever say it was? Your nurse replies, archly amused. Which is fair, you suppose. Your nurse might not have the best bedside manner, but she has yet to tell you any outrageous lies. Not any that you recognize, at least. Your nurse lets her unsmoked cigarette fall to the ground amidst the carcasses of its fallen brethren. Then she grinds it beneath her heel. She inclines her head and proffers you her arm, just as a gallant might. Shall we be off? She does not need to ask you twice. You take your nurse's arm, though you feel somewhat abashed at having to rely on her so much. Then let her lead you into the hallway. You stumble into an unfamiliar corridor you have never seen before, a space which is even more dismal, if that can be believed, than your bedroom. There is more peeling paper in the hallway, though it looks oddly blackened, signed by the wainscoting. The floor is made of warped wood, and true to your nurse's warning, there are holes in it, yawning voids which have been eaten away as if by some almighty maw. The windows are stained black, with soot maybe, and one of the windows you pass has shattered completely, letting in the lukewarm breeze. Well, at least it isn't a cold day. The hallway is awfully dismal, yet the sky outside past the empty window pane looks blue enough and very bright. The sun is out and you sigh as you pass the ruined window. The sunlight feels good on your skin. There is something soothing about it. When was the last time you felt the sun's light on your face? You cannot remember. It feels as though it has been a very, very long time indeed. You have been shut up in this sanatorium for too long, but by the same token, it feels like you have been here for hardly any time at all. Time is playing tricks on you again. It shifts, dilutes, and undulates, just like water. It is impossible to take hold of. It is even more impossible to perceive. You cannot see what form time takes, how many days it has stolen from you. But you can feel your nurse's supportive arm about your shoulder, and this helps ground you. You lean against her heavily as you walk, taking care to avoid the gaping holes in the wooden floor. You step over them gingerly, and as you do, a sudden burst of pain knives through your right leg. You wince, though you wish you wouldn't. You don't want the nurse to pity you, and the nurse stills. She looks at you and then says, "Are you alright?" Naturally, you nod your head. "You're fine. Are you sure? I fear this might be too taxing on your body. Are you sure you can keep going?" You tell the nurse you will be fine. She doesn't need to worry. You want to go to the garden and you are sure you can endure it. Nobody knows your own body better than you. Really now, how strange. I thought that knowing your body was my job. But if you are sure... Yes, you tell her forcefully you are sure. You're fine. Didn't she herself say that you are nasty and self-serving, was it? Yes, that's right. I did say that, didn't I? Yes, you did. Well, you can add stubborn to the list, you tell her, because you aren't the one to give up, not so easily. You've already taken so many steps out of your room. You can't turn back now. Otherwise, what would be the point in all this? Yes, I see what you mean. Your nurse says I would not wish to rob you of a job well done, so... Alright, let us keep going. Relief floods you clear and cool the moment these words leave your nurse's mouth. You feel so thrilled you could very well kiss her, not that you would, of course. You're not that desperate. Yet. Just wait till she takes off the mask. Then we'll immediately do her. That is what you tell yourself at least, yet you cannot suppress your gasp of joy when you finally reach your destination. There is a door inlaid into the wall, a door which has been thrown open, which leads into a garden. The garden is as green and grassy as you have dreamt, perhaps to an excessive degree. There is too much grass in this garden, so much so it juts out on all angles, all the way past your ankles. The grass is in dire need of a trim, and the hedgerows are all overgrown. There is an old fountain in this garden, but it no longer runs. The stone basin of the fountain is filled with weeds, positively choked with them. There is a plinth in the middle of this fountain upon which a half-naked Grecian woman stands, blue-white lichen sprouting between her sandaled toes. She holds a pot atop one shoulder, from which cool jets of water must once have poured. The statue is as dry as a bone now, however, and the Grecian lady is not faring well. She is missing half of her head. There is something dismal about this courtyard, something decidedly tragic. The garden is hemmed in on one side by the crumbling red brick walls of the sanatorium, and it is littered with detritus, loose tiles fallen from the roof, and trees toppled in thunderstorm, and what might very well be the missing half of the Grecian lady's head. As far as gardens go, it is something of a disappointment, though you have the faint feeling that you recognize this place. There is something familiar about the shape of the fountain, about the overgrown fig trees, about the cluster of what you assume were once roses, which are now more thorn than flower. You are sure you have seen this garden before, not as an overrun tangle of stinging nettles and other miscellanea which might trip you, but in its glory days when the hedges were neat and the flowers well cared for. There is something familiar about it. A memory stirs within you beneath the surface of your consciousness. So, what do you think? It makes a nice change from your room, don't you think? But then your nurse speaks and this memory fades. Though you try to grasp it, it slithers from between your fingers, just like the scales of a slippery fish. You cannot hold on to it. It is lost to you, lost to the void. But your nurse is right about one thing. This garden, however dilapidated, does make a nice change from your room. There is something reassuring about it, especially when you feel the warmth of the sun's light brush your skin. You sigh from the pleasure of it, a pleasure so great it seems to overtake the pain in your right leg, and your nurse's red eyes soften. Good, I thought you might like it, that is why I brought you here. I was unsure initially whether you would be able to make it all the way to the garden, even with my help. Though you counter, that was very foolish of her. She must not know who you are. Does she really think that you would let a silly little broken leg keep you from doing what you want? I suppose not. That is not the sort of girl you are. You have always been such a difficult patient. But I believe I've told you once before that I happen to like difficult patients. Yes, she had told you as much. Did she not say she liked difficult patients because she enjoyed breaking them down? Indeed, it is one of my more unsavory habits. Your nurse says, her voice furtive and a little shifty. You latch on to this, you cannot help but be curious. And you ask her what other unsavory habits she has. Is lighting cigarettes she does not intend to smoke one of them? That and making my patients cry. I can be awful, really, when the mood strikes me, your nurse says lightly, though I am in a good mood today. And why is that? Who knows? Perhaps it is the sun, or perhaps I simply like seeing you smile. Here you scoff. You think that sounds supremely unlikely, given all of her talk about how she likes tormenting others. Yes, I suppose it must seem unlikely, your nurse says, her voice vague. To you, I will not expect you to understand, but you have always been special to me. Special as in how? Always? For as long as I have known you at least. Ever since you were admitted into the sanatorium, she means. What else would I mean? That is what you were asking. Well, I don't. There are some questions you would be better off not knowing the answer to. Now you stay here. I'm gonna fetch something for you. What something? Nothing sinister. I only wish to reward you for your hard work. Now hang tight. I won't be a minute. You know, she did say that she wants to serve us dinner. But we never got that dinner anyway. What the hell, man? She lied. You think that this is most likely a lie. You imagine your nurse will be gone for much longer than a minute, but you do not care. I mispronounce nurse to nurse. Jeez. All this reading is making me crazy. You have slowly become accustomed to your nurse's company, to the point where speaking to her seems almost natural. You have been sleeping a lot lately and you seem only to awake in your nurse's company. Sometimes it feels as though she's the only real thing in the world, that you will cease to exist without her. On occasions, when you hover in the mutable divide between sleep and wakefulness, you can almost bring yourself to believe that you are not real at all, that you are not flesh and blood. You are nothing more than a figment of your nurse's imagination, a dream which can only be witnessed when you are not in her company. You wonder if you will bleep out her existence the moment she departs, if you will fade after she sets you down in the grass as if you were never there at all. But this is nothing more than an idle musing. Your nurse leaves you amongst the tall grass and the gorse, and you do not disappear. You remain as corporal as ever, hard and firm, just like the Grecian lady missing half her head. So, you're not a hallucination after all, but of course you already knew that. If you were a hallucination, would you have the cognitive ability to wonder whether you were a hallucination in the first place? You are much too advanced to be a hallucination. You need to think harder. Oh, how long have we been reading? My throat is starting to dry. Think, Ezra. Ezra, is that your name? You cling to your name, to this shard of your name, jealously, as if it is a precious gem. You hold it close to your heart, letting its sharp edges lacerate you. Z is such a pointed letter. While you wait your nurse's return, you sit there in the grass, surrounded by weeds, and as you do, you ponder. The nurse told you that this place is a sanatorium, and in the beginning you did not doubt her. She sounded so assured when she delivered these lines. You could not even begin to imagine she was lying. You did not see any patients as your nurse led you through the hallway. You did not see any doctors either. The doctors you initially wished to complain to about medical malpractice. You haven't seen any other nurses. You haven't seen any staff at all. Even if this sanatorium is running on a skeleton crew, you would expect there to be a few servants at the very least. The gardeners to trim the grass in the courtyard and handymen to repair the broken windows in the hallway. Can this really be a real medical establishment given the state it is in? Why the hallway was riddled with holes, and there, in the roof, overhead, yet you can see yet more holes, tiles dislodged from the roof, which have shattered into pieces on the unforgiving ground below. Something isn't right here. Maybe there has never been anything right here. Or maybe this is just an experimental lab, and we are the guinea pig. You are fast beginning to doubt this is a real sanatorium, but if this is not a sanatorium, then who is your nurse? A cannibal, I would say. What relation is she to you, and what does she want from you? She wants to eat the shit out of us. She wants that meat. She wants us for meat. Or maybe she just wants a partner. Or maybe she's just lonely. Who knows? Oh, hello. You're busy pondering this when your nurse returns, the lower half of her face still obscured by her mask. In one hand, she holds a hamper, and there's a blanket slung over her arm, a soft checkered thing, black and white like a giant chessboard. Your nurse arranges this blanket on the ground amidst all the tall grass and the stinging nettles. Your nurse sits on the blanket gracefully, her long legs unfurling beneath her. Then through half-lidded eyes, she examines you amusedly. Well, do you want a treat? She says, her voice sensuous for being such a good girl. You rail against this descriptor which feels so ill-fitting, too small for you, and uncomfortably scratchy. You have half a mind to tell your nurse that you won't do anything she asks, not if she insists upon calling you a girl. But then your stomach rumbles rather noticeably too, and the nurse titters. Don't deny your body what it wants. Come and sit beside me, come. You hesitate for a few moments, but ultimately obey. It feels as if you have no choice. You cannot say no to the nurse. There is something mesmerizing about her, something hypnotic. You can feel her luring you in, and like a moth, you find yourself drawn to the light she exudes. You take a seat upon the blanket, free from the tall grass and the stinging nettles, while she nods approvingly. Very good, now come. The nurse reaches for one long gloved arm into the wicker basket, then procures from it a bowl full of strawberries, red jewel-like things all sprinkled with sugar. Oh, thanks. She takes one of these precious gems between her thumb and forefinger and dips it into a little bowl of cream, all soft white peaks just like clouds. Then she holds the strawberry out to you. The strawberry looks undoubtedly delicious. Its rounded surface positively seems to throb in the sunlight, but still you eye it with some trepidation. Is it really safe to eat? Why wouldn't it be safe? I promise it's not poisonous. Why would I wish to harm you when you are my own patient? That's actually true. If he did, why would she go through all the trouble of nursing us back to health just to poison and kill us? Makes zero sense. You're not sure about that, you cannot say, but you also don't know why she insists upon lighting her cigarettes in your company. Oh, that? Your nurse says with a careless shake of her gloved hand. Don't be so precious, it isn't like you. And anyway, a bit of smoke never hurt anybody. Now come here, come. You want to argue with the nurse's careless comment. You rather think that smoke can be dangerous, especially if ingested in large quantities, but your stomach gives another sad, pathetic little gurgle. You don't necessarily trust your nurse, you fear she's being a bit too nice to you, but you are hungry. You didn't have any breakfast this morning and you would like to eat something substantial. Not that the strawberries have much substance to them, you suppose. Still, they should be better than nothing. You do entertain unsettling notions of the strawberries being laced with cyanide, of your stomach tying itself into knots upon you swallowing, while your body begins to convulse. But to your surprise, the strawberry pinch between the nurse's gaunt fingers tastes ripe, full, and sweet. The peaks of white cream which daub it only serve to enhance the flavor, as does the sugar sprinkle atop it. It might not be so bad after all. See, your nurse says, sounding triumphant. Once you swallow, what did I tell you? There is nothing wrong with these strawberries. Now come on dear, eat up. There are plenty more where they came from. And I even have a bit of quiche and some elderflower wine. I think it should go down rather nicely after you have been consuming all of this hospital food. Your recovery has been going so well, you deserve to celebrate it. You have worked hard for this, so savor it. It might very well prove to be one of your last meals here in this institution before you are allowed to leave. Last meal, That sounds awfully ominous. Does that make this something of a last supper then? Yes, I suppose. Now come, eat. You oblige now that you know that the strawberry wasn't drizzled with something suspect. Your nurse takes another jewel-like strawberry between her fingers, blood red against her white gloves, and holds it aloft. Here you go. Say, ah. Oh crap, I made that sound weird. Say, ah. You oblige, feeling a touch silly as you do so, a touch self-conscious. The faintest of blushes spread across your cheeks as you take the strawberry into your mouth. You feel your nurse's gloved fingers brushing against your lips and you shudder from it. There is something almost uncomfortably intimate about her touch. You are unsure why, but it sends a small thrill down your spine, a sudden spike of sensation which should not be there. You have no fond feelings towards your nurse. In fact, you find her rather disagreeable, but it feels hard to hate her when she is being like this. It feels almost as if her marble hardness during your earlier checkups was all an act, as though she was presenting herself as an aloof stoic figure to hide her true feelings. What are her feelings, however? Does she really care for you? It is hard to tell. Her surgical mask obscures so much of her face. You cannot see what her lips are doing, whether they are quirking upwards into a smile, or else if they are being pursed together in distaste. But you do get the feeling, as your nurse continues to indulge you, that she is enjoying the quiet, intimate moment even more than you are. You continue to eat, the breeze stirring your hair, the hem of your nightgown, until your nurse stops. She sets the hamper aside, smiling with her eyes. She says, That should be the last of the food. The strawberries and the quiche. You ate quite heartily too, not leaving a single crumb. I'm I'm very proud of you. You've become so obedient. I worried that you might spit it all back out just to spite me. Yet you have been just as well behaved as any doll. As any doll? Oh ho! Oh, what are your plans? Now, did you enjoy that treat, dear one? You frown. You are unsure about this sudden use of an epithet, but you cannot bring yourself to wholly hate it. Something within you flutters like the wings of a butterfly. Abashed by your nurse's sweet sentiments, you glance to one side. You feel a flush spread across your cheeks, though you wish it would not. There is something embarrassing about it, something almost infantilizing. You feel demeaned by your own body, irate that it refuses to listen to you. But even then, you cannot deny that you appreciate your nurse's company. You nod your head, which is bowed beneath the sunlight, and you tell her how you feel. Good, I thought you might say that, says your nurse, her voice low and smooth like velvet. Now you must be feeling weary after all that excitement. Would you like to rest your head? Rest it where, you ask with an innocent blink. Where do you think, says your nurse, indicating her lap with her palm. It is open for you if you so desire. Oh, if you insist. You eye the nurse's lap with some trepidation, as if eyeing a pit full of snakes. Your nurse is very skinny, her body almost eerily devoid of excess fat. She is tall alongside it and alarmingly bony, so she looks like a skeleton. You cannot imagine that her lap would make all that comfortable of a pillow. The idea isn't very appealing. But your nurse is right. You do feel tired after all that walking and you would like to lie down. Your nurse's lap does not seem like the most comfortable pillow, but it is preferable to lying your head down in the nettles at least. You dither for a few moments, seized by indecisiveness, and your nurse, seeing this, smiles. You might as well make the most of my services. As a nurse, it is my job to treat you. You are my patient, so you ought to make use of me. That is what I'm here for. It is a pleasant piece of sophistry, but it rings hollow when you consider the words the nurse spoke to you already. Did she not tell you when you awoke that your sickness stripped away your humanity? She claimed that as if you were not human, you had no right to. Well, ask for any rights. Did she not say that your sickness maimed you, made you less than? Why then does she care so much about your comfort? Of course I care, your nurse says, her red eyes unblinking. It is true that you are in no fit state to be reintegrated into polite society, not with your leg mangled as it is. But that does not mean I do not want you to integrate into society again. In fact, it is the opposite. I only want the best for you. I want to please you. So you might as well take this moment to rest while you can. Your treatment shall be even more intense in the future. You have led a charmed life in this sanatorium, but you will eventually recover. Then you will have to leave. You will face the outside world without me. Oh, I will gladly do that. So until that fateful moment, you might as well enjoy my company while you can. You look at your nurse mutely bemused. Your nurse has always sounded so cold in your prior dealings and cheek-clipped. But now you sense a peculiar emotion throbbing behind her words. Something like sorrow, maybe? Will she be sorry to see you go? In a sense, I'm supposed. I'm always sad when any of my patients recover. A nurse becomes redundant, you know, when she has nobody to heal. I derive my worth from the sick people who require my aid. Once you recover, I will no longer have a purpose. I will be shunted into the shadows again, like a corkscrew once the last bottle of champagne has been opened. We nurses exist for one purpose, and one purpose alone. We exist to make the sick healthy. You give me my purpose in that sense. I suppose you could say that you complete me. In a sense, I rely upon you. Your nurse looks at you, her eyes hooded, cold and clever like a falcon's. You cannot see your nurse's mouth, but you imagine she is smiling as she says, "But you are relying upon me right now to help you get better. We are in a mutually beneficial relationship, that of give and take. So you might as well take from me while you can. I do not mind giving. That is the role I must play." A role, you say, like a corkscrew? Yes, exactly, like a corkscrew. I've heard it said that I am exceptionally sharp and pointy. Well, you can't argue with that. You were thinking much the same thing. You laugh lightly at this, some of the tension between you dissipating. Then you decide to capitulate. Why not rest your head upon the nurse's lap? What do you have to lose? You will recover soon enough, and then you wouldn't need to spend any more time in this sanatorium. With this strange woman who smells of smoke, you will finally be able to leave while she will be. You blink as you lie back, settling your head upon her lap, slotting it there like a piece of jigsaw. You look up at her and then ask her that fateful question. Will she be lonely when you recover and you leave? Lonely? Your nurses ask. Her head tilted. There is a pause and then, perhaps I shall. Really? But what are the other patients in the sanatorium? How can she be lonely when there will always be an influx of new people to treat? Well, here's the thing. I doubt there's other patients in the sanatorium. I think she's just lying. She's lying. I think they're all dead. You wonder whether the nurse will admit to her deception, whether she will confirm that this place was never a sanatorium, and she never was a nurse, and there never were any other patients. But the nurse does not do this. Not content to drop a subterfuge, not even until the last, your nurse says, yes, you are right, there will always be new patients to treat, of course. But I remember every single patient I have had the privilege of treating. I recall all of our moments together, no matter how fleeting. In fact, one might argue it is the fleeting nature of these moments which makes them more precious. Nothing can last forever, and yet, your nurse sighs through a mask, muffles most of this exhalation, and says, sometimes when I look at you, I do find myself wishing. She never does finish this statement, however, or perhaps you simply do not remain awake long enough to hear it. Your consciousness is already beginning to drift away. You thought that you would never be able to sleep, resting on your nurse's lap, which is just as bony as you feared. Your nurse's knee seemed to jut out beneath her white skirt to dig into your side, just like a dentist's drill, so you wince. It is not exactly pleasant, but it is not unpleasant either. It cannot be unpleasant, for your consciousness is already beginning to fade. You drift off, your head resting on your nurse's lap, as if in a boat, buoyed to and fro by the waves. Your consciousness deserts you, guttering out like the dying flame of a candle, like a stubbed out cigarette. You feel yourself drifting, buoyed on wings of silver sleep. But before you surrender yourself to oblivion, you are sure you hear your nurse mumble, "You silly thing, what in the world am I gonna do with you?" This question, of course, is one that is doomed to remain unanswered, for the time being at least. You sleep and you sleep and you sleep. Oh my god, but you eventually awake. Can I save? Can I save? Yes, I can save. Okay, I save here. But if I go back? Yep, I can go back. Thank God! I awake, but you eventually awake. It is inevitable that you would, for nobody can sleep forever. However much you might wish for it, however much you might will it. Your eyelids flutter open, inevitably, inexorably. You expect upon waking you will find yourself in the scrubby garden once more, still lying in your nurse's lap. But to your surprise, you are no longer outdoors. You cannot feel the breeze upon your cheeks, nor through your hair. When you blink, you find first yourself looking at shadows. Darkness presses down upon you, a darkness so thick and absolute it might very well be sludge or sediment scraped from the bottom of the ocean. But there is light enough in which to see, which spills through your window from the moon's ghostly glow. You are back in your room and it is late at night. You know not how much time has passed since you were in the garden with your nurse, whether it has been hours or days or even weeks, but time has changed, and as have you. You felt light when you were outdoors, basking beneath the sun's rays like a nymph. The worst of your sickness sloughed off you, and fortified by the strawberries and the cream your nurse fed you, you felt as if your inevitable recovery was well and truly in your grasp. Now, however, you feel tired, bone tired, in fact, all the way down to your marrow. You are lying once more on your harsh iron-backed bed. The bed is too small, like a coffin, and it constrains you. The darkness which surrounds you is oppressive. Thank goodness you were asleep for hours. I was worried I had given you a little too much valerian. You slept so deeply like the dead. I thought you really might have passed on. And what is with this creepy music? Is this the part where she reveals she's her true nature? You didn't half give me a fright, and the presence which stands by your bedside, staring down at you from the shadows, is even more so. Your nurse is there as she always seems to be during your waking hours, be it daytime or dark. She is not holding a tray in one hand, however, as she often does when she visits you at night. Instead, she is clutching. What is she clutching? It is hard to see what she holds in her slender, bony fingers, for it is obscured in shadows. In her other hand, however, you can see that she is holding a cigarette. That is no surprise, of course. Not by this point. Your nurse is always holding a cigarette, though whether she smokes them is another matter. Why, you ask your nurse tiredly, does she always light cigarettes she does not mean to smoke? Who is she trying to impress? I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm not a child desperate for approval. I'm a grown woman. Thank you very much. Then she lights cigarettes solely for the thrill of watching something burn. That is not a bad assessment. Perhaps you ought to be the nurse, not I. You are well suited for it, quick-witted. That is one of the reasons why I like you so much. Ah, thanks. Why, thank you, you tell your nurse. You are very flattered. But what is the meaning of this? What does she mean by valerian? Everything in due course. I will tell you everything. I always do in the end. But first, I ought to offer you a few words of congratulations. Congratulations? Yes, indeed, you have almost made a full recovery, as your turn in the garden ought to indicate. Soon you will be able to walk even greater distances unaided, and eventually you will no longer need me. My services will be redundant. You interrupt, like the corkscrew you spoke of, the one stashed in the back of a drawer. There is a brief pause. Your nurse looks you over, her eyes narrowed, mouth inscrutable, of course behind her mask, and then, so you were listening to me. Of course you were listening. Who else did you have in this awful place to listen to? She was your only companion. Yes, your nurse says, with an acknowledging nod of her head. I suppose that's true. That's how I've always wanted it to be, but it does not seem, no matter what I do to you or how I try to isolate you. Like a phoenix, you continue to rise from the fire. You simply cannot leave well enough alone. You're always trying to escape from me. But we have been through this before. Even if you do not remember, I cannot let you leave. I need you far too much. Your nurse approaches you as she speaks slowly, almost languidly. You see the fingers of her left hand flex, the hand which is not holding her smoldering cigarette, and it is only then that you realize in her other hand, no longer obscured by shadows, not fully at least, your nurse is holding a hammer. You gasp, then ask her past your tongue, which seems to have doubled in size, what in the world she means to do with that hammer. What do you think? She's crazy. She crazy, I told you. She fucking crazy. What is she talking about? I thought you might ask me that. You always do, though I have explained it to you so many times already. I have told you who I am and what my motives are, and more times than I care to count. At this point, I'd hoped you would remember. But you can be awfully forgetful of these things, my dear. You remembered my silly metaphor about the corkscrew, but you can't retain any information of value. It all slides right out of your head like water through a sieve. I wonder if that is the valerian's work too, or perhaps it is the pain. I imagine it must hurt a lot, having your legs broken so many times. Oh, okay. Now would be the fourth, I think the fifth, I cannot remember. Even I have lost count. Here your nurse pauses, she looks at you askance, then says, maybe I'm a hypocrite for scolding you. It seems that I have begun to forget things too. What? You look at the nurse mutely, your heart beginning to throb with fear, your saliva thick and vicious as it catches in your throat. What does she mean? what I said. We've done this song and dance many times before. At this point, it is becoming almost cliche. Part of me wonders if I break your bones often enough, whether you will remember me, but the truth never seems to stick. Perhaps I'm not breaking you down thoroughly enough. Perhaps I need to grind your bones down to a fine powder like broken glass, so you will never be able to recover from my love for you. I will carve my affection onto your body for now, until eternity. My love is more than strong enough to mutilate a person, especially a helpless young girl like you. You chafe once more at being called a girl, and a helpless girl besides, but you know better than to contradict your nurse. You are wary of the hammer in her hand, and you fear what pain she might inflict with it, what pain she has inflicted already. You swallow. Your saliva tastes oddly, unpleasantly thick in your mouth, as the nurse says. But if I were to ruin your lovely legs that excessively, I feared you would never recover. Then you would never be able to love me. I cannot be too hard with you. You are a lady after all, and I am no brute. And I am no brute. Okay, fellas. I'm stopping here. Jeez. How long has it been? It's been... Oh my god. It's been 1 hour 30 minutes I've been playing this. I'm stopping here, okay? I'm gonna die. Too much reading. Too much words. Right, I hope you guys enjoy watching this first part of this game, which I forgot the name of. Sorry. So, if you did, please do like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next part, where she cracks us with a hammer.